Hello and welcome to the very first TWiML AI Platforms. I'm your host, Sam Charrington. I'm so excited to have you all here and really pumped about getting this event kicked off. This event has been a long time in the making and you're in for a real treat. And I'm not just talking about the 7 months that it took us to actually plan this event. In fact, this is a topic that I've been passionate about and exploring for quite a long time. In fact, the very first article that I wrote after launching my industry analysis firm to focus on tracking the development of machine learning and helping enterprises understand how to take advantage of it was about what were then some new entrants in the field of machine learning tools. Clearly, those were early days. And in fact, fast forward 6 years to 2018, and the world has changed dramatically. That article was written in 2012. That was the year that AlexNet won the ImageNet competition and ushered in the wave of deep learning. Cloud infrastructure has matured dramatically since then and really lowered the barrier of entry for organizations to train and deploy machine learning models. TensorFlow came out of nowhere to dominate the deep learning framework space. And then when we thought it was all locked up, PyTorch is on the rise since then. But most importantly, businesses were really starting to demonstrate the value of machine learning for core use cases. And so with that as a backdrop, I found myself having a lot of conversations with organizations that were really at the same stage in development. It was eerie how similar these conversations were. Enterprises had invested in spinning up data science and machine learning teams, kicking off proof of concepts, science projects, lab experiments around machine learning over the prior 3 to 5 years. And around the middle to end of 2018, they were all in a very similar place. They were evangelizing ML and the opportunity in their organizations for several years, and all of a sudden, the organization was bought in. They were saying, they were asked, okay, now that you said we can have models here, here, and here to support our business, how do we get them there? And the folks that I spoke to in interviews as well as advisory sessions had a very similar conversation. We realized that the technologies and the techniques that we've been using to do machine learning in the lab or in proof of concepts in one-off ways are not the things that we're going to need to do to scale up to meet the demand within our organizations. And so with that in mind, we kicked off a series of podcasts, our first AI Platforms podcast series, to really explore this topic and share some of the leading organizations in this space had learned. That series included folks from the Facebook FB Learner team, folks from the Airbnb Big Head team, folks from LinkedIn, OpenAI, enterprises like Comcast and Shell, and many others. We also launched a series of ebooks exploring key areas in this space. The first of these ebooks took a bottoms-up approach and looked at the way organizations were using the open source Kubernetes platform to scale up their ability to train and deliver machine learning models. It's incredible that in the 11 months since this ebook was published, that idea has gone from being novel to being almost passé in some circles. More recently, we launched our second ebook in the space, The Definitive Guide to Machine Learning Platforms, which takes a top-down view and looks at what some of the leaders like Facebook, Airbnb, and others have built internally to support machine learning at scale, and uses that to distill a roadmap for organizations that are just starting on their platform journey. And so throughout all of this, it was very clear that this was a topic that people wanted to talk about. And in fact, this is the precursor to this event. At the last NeurIPS conference, again, just under a year ago, on a whim, I organized an impromptu meetup for folks that were interested in AI in production in the enterprise. And this is at an academic conference. No idea what we would expect, but we ended up basically taking over a dim sum restaurant for lunch. You'll also note that the app that we use to organize this is the same app that we're using here and we'll be using to organize our unconference, which I'll talk more about later. But here we are. I'll talk about our agenda for the day a bit later on, but for now, I'm excited to get our program kicked off with what promises to be a couple of amazing live keynote interviews. These are live podcasts that will be going out starting today.